Pig's head lords it over the butcher shop flies. A grunting male tries a condom on for size, and a cockroach joint sold cheese sleaze under a broken lampshade, not non-stick, not non-fade. Upstairs a billiard table serenade, chewing gum rolled in a bloody band-aid. Downstairs a stone broke, but smoke, suck on a foaming can of coke. Each room is a one-room private hell, electric chair with waterbed in a honky-tonk hotel. United States of anguish on the colour TV. Good guys get called wimp or trendy lefty. A cabinet of nothingness, a closet full of boredom. Got a Tampax mess in the urinal fountain. Sinister, sadistic sister speaks to the right-thinking, righteous brothers of the apocalypso disco. Spitting out a dirty gag, spilling out shopping bag, nail that tongue so it don't wag. Velvet underground, African violets in a button-popping Zanzibar cocktail bar. Call out poppycock to the plastered peacocks, the men's mannequins with mascaraed eyes who don't bat an eye. Don't believe in the sound of your own voice. Stick it in your ear, blow it out your nose. At Lonely Hearts, Laugh City, experience the same old, finding out all that glitters is fool's gold. In the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, Cinerama, Panorama, the peanut vendor's vendetta is watched by jet boys and jet girls with envy-filled squeals on their castanet stiletto heels. Their daring hairdos scene steal. They got little kitten lost appeal. Closer emotional relations with the great Australiana. Month-long exile sail away on the Oriana. Cash on delivery, dead on arrival. New Zealand genocide and rancid suntan oil. And over 40 does a Cadillac walk. Denim jeans that talk, squeak, squeak. He's somebody's washed up fantasy number on this black bitumen beach. Not too far to reach. A sea of plastic bags across the traffic surf espresso. Ankle tap sauna, terra incognito. The unknown land around the corner. Pull down the shades, telephone rings. A Mack truck rattles the tea things. Hey bubba cool, doobie doobie doo, mow mow, pill popper, slobber slobber, doomba doom, action stopper. She's a atom bomb, baby boom, teeny bopper, go go go. Pap you on your guinea, gospel singers a go go. The Wizard of Oz in Christchurch Square, Canterbury God Squad gets the God slot. Dot dot dot, believes in the Holy Ghost. It's the most. Get off the grass, get on your bike, back to the backless, bottomless Ponsonby Road, ballyhoo, where the verbally rude, ego massage the physically crude. Swear romance, get us to dance. Starry-eyed runaway strutters try to place the face. Easy rider, reptile nutters from the main drag. Glue sniff from a plastic bag. Idle rich iguanas stalk a naked lunch at the cafe Peppermint Twist. She wears a wig of bananas and a floating nylon mist. She's a cordon bleu angel on the planet of the apes. Memory joggers are on the run in paranoia's city of straits, and out of her skull on transplants of silicon chips. It's a live beauty queen in jackboot spurs and zips. Home is a luxury interior of flesh and blood. A famous sex change surgeon is photographed at the Valium Club with a 13-year-old virgin. Dumb crumbs on the wine-spotted tablecloth. The hardline people who bankroll the dole conduct a wildlife safari to Ponsonby Road. Waitemata sunset turns the sea to wet gold. Joe Coconut Telegraph taps out. Half-caste Samoan juntas, Fijian coup d'etat. Vanuatu rebellion, Tongan cha-cha-cha. Big Mama and Onehunga, Bastion Point, Tohunga. King Cobra strikes in Gas Pipe Park. The Pukekos are taking over as it all goes dark. Heart of stone, nerves of steel. A used car buyer makes a dream deal. A nightmare feeling, a rubber squeal. Down Ponsonby Road, it's all too real. I've always been interested in art, pop art, conceptual art, and art provera, sort of using poor materials like dirt and stones and making collages and so forth. And in a way, in that poem Down Ponsonby Road, what I've tried to do is make a collage of different elements. It has as its starting point the fact that Ponsonby Road in Auckland is an amazingly varied street, an amazingly colourful street. It's got lots of different things, lots of different shops, lots of different activities happening along, because it's quite a long street. And I thought it would be good to focus on that as a symbol, in a way, of aspects of life in Auckland. My performance of my poetry is really something, an accessory after the fact of writing the stuff. So I began writing the kind of poetry I'm doing now after I left school. I sort of kept developing, kept evolving, moving towards the kind of poetry that I was most interested in, which I suppose you could characterise as satirical commentaries on society and just
the environment with which I was familiar, which is South Auckland, and which is sort of a suburban wasteland. And I began writing about that area, and the poetry sort of fell rather dead when I actually sent it off to editors, in that there was no response at all. They kind of sent it back to me, so I ended up having to publish it myself in small broadsheets. So I did a whole series of broadsheets in the late 70s, which I distributed, and then I started to get up in pubs and coffee bars and read the stuff out. And I found I was connecting with an audience at that stage. And as a result of that, I found people wanted the work, they wanted to hear it, and so it clicked.
Wah, 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 wah. Was it the very aware computer with the infinity focus gaze? Was it the single ticket to the pleasurama of the push-button age? Was it the stretch-bodied mini giving birth to hyper people? Was it Bob Geldof on a rubber cross on the global village steeple? Was it the plain-clothed police dog in the unmarked go-kart? Was it the moving rubber disco toilet posing as a work of art? Was it the vodka under the light bulb whispering, I'm okay, you're okay? Was it the creative accountant's number massage, the subdividing takeaway? Was it the super tanker of frozen yogurt? Was it the strawberries big as girls? Was it Beethoven's ninth digital watch tune heard around the world? Was it the washing machine that wouldn't wash? Was it the blender that didn't blend? Or was it the lyrical squawk of a battery hen that told me it was the end, the end, the end, the end, the end, the end,
I used to listen to people like Bob Dylan and Chuck Berry and sort of David Bowie and guys like that, later on Bruce Springsteen and so forth, and all these people were using lyrics which had a lot of emotion, had a lot of power, and which were communicating really well. And I was drawn to that. At the same time, I had this very strong interest in these sort of beat parts, William Burroughs and Allen Ginsberg, Lawrence Ferlinghetti and so forth. So what I was trying to do was to kind of combine my interests and I think sort of invest poetry with some of the same energy that you find in rock and roll music. There's a big wave in the early 80s of performance poetry which broke out in England, which I kind of hooked up with because it actually had similarities with my own stuff. These guys, I think, had come up the same way as me. They'd heard rock music and they listened to the Beatles, John Lennon, people like that, and they were also interested in poetry, people like John Cooper Clarke and Attila Stock broke out and Seething Wells, and they were performance poets, and also a Jamaican reggae poet called Benjamin Zephaniah. All these guys I met, and I found that they had similarities with what I was doing, but they also had a sort of a kind of a vaudeville music hall element, which comes from their particularly English background. They were sort of used to working in cabaret alongside stand-up comics, so they, in a way, they kind of used to pander to their audience a bit more than I do. I mean, some of my stuff's quite tricky, and it does, in a way, you get more out of it if you know a bit about literature.
Lemon shrub, grapefruit tree, slats of a phoenix palm behind metal palings, behind battens, the other side of a picket fence, soak and bask as the sun tours the Pacific Highway, not seeing the licorice light, tumble, lick and curl over an ecstatic shrub, hosing the neck and back, turning grapefruit to fleshy blooms, turning features to bone china, thinning the lozenges of porch glass, a beauty spot of shadow, a dimple of breeze, the chintz of clothing, a closet of parks, a wardrobe of ravelled bush, not finding in the sand or propelled cloud the rightness and inevitability of a summery saffron afternoon.
I'd say that James K. Baxter is a central influence because he's sort of so massive. He kind of covered the whole waterfront. He went everywhere. He wrote about New Zealand society, which is actually not that big a society. I mean, it is possible to be known by most of the major players personally. I mean, in his day in the 50s, he was acquainted with all kinds of people from all walks of life. So he had the skill. He was articulate enough to write about that sort of stuff, and in a way to commandeer it and to put a stamp on his personality. So you're always writing in the shadow of Baxter if you're writing the kind of stuff I'm writing. So he's the central figure. Around him there are people like A.R.D. Fairbairn, Dennis Glover, and Hone Tufari. And also in the following that, in the early 70s, you had this wave of poets, post-war New Zealand poets, people like Ian Wede and Alan Brunton, especially the fact that he used that Bertolt Brecht type theatre at Red Mole as a vehicle for delivering his poetry, and that was quite inspirational to me, and also, of course, Sam Hunt. So those three sort of male poets of the early 70s were also quite influential.
Just like the heroic, sports-mad ancient Greeks, we're a nation of upstanding, proud, true athletes, individually hand-reared Olympic gold medalists, confiding winning recipes to Women's Weekly readers, jolly chinwags on radio with Coromandel pot throwers, meringue fanciers and pikelet growers. You little beauty, you small wonder, it's well done New Zealand, we knew you had it in you. First prize is a lifetime supply of tea towels showing Mount Cook. Hard bickies for the softies, the sissies and the sooks. Gonna ski down the slopes of a butter mountain. Gonna swim 20 square miles of runny green snot. Gonna drop the pilot into a hell of a palaver. Dishonourable discharge, a real white joker. Doberman pinchers and a black balaclava. The thundering hooves of sheep to the rescue. Of an iron lady with a sawn-off billiard cue. Looking majestic in a walkabout suit. Royal omelette, 21 bum salute. One in the eyewitness news, shell-shocking suburbanite bunker views, a mid-city movie made in the graveyards of Cambodia. Metro swingers stomping around with Big Betty Bopper, with toy poodles and talcum powder, with a rubber armband and an eyedropper, with a crucified rent-a-worm fetus burger, with a soft drink solar plexus universal glass of Coca-Cola. It's enough to make you drop out of the yogurt cottage industry and go up country with a 303, the eternal flame of a laid-on Barbie in a corporate posse, with plenty of Sheilas and high-cut cozies. As whitbread yachts sail off into the soaraway summer sun, there's time for one last photo of Simon Le Bon, the Grace Jones jet plane, the Grace Jones puberty scar, Alana Curry's mouth stretch mark round a fat cigar, a foxy Frenchman models the bondage frogman look, Napoleon hung up on a nuclear hook. Squash into the traffic jam, the long weekend rally, the possum squelching great escape from mass hypnosis tally. She's not going to hoo-hoo grub heaven in a Maori valiant. She's a lazy boy armchair traveller, my giddy aunt. All she wants is a cup of tea and a quiet lie down. Transcendental materialism in the privacy of the home, joined only by an officially sanctioned tapper on the phone. A sitting house of beetle-wig-wearing senior politicians, the haunting cries of member calling to member to remember, as real men take their unzipped ease, often with the help of accessories. Beer Bellies Anonymous windstone it up to the bar, like a street kid nativity scene that's gone too far. I saw it in the New Zealand Herald, I saw it written down from N to Z, from the Whippy-Doo Primmer's jungle gym to the dinky-dyed dairy on the desert road, from the feather-filled eiderdowns of childhood to a maximum security twilight home. I saw it in the New Zealand Herald, you're better dead than red.
It's not hard to stand out against the rest of the poetry scene in New Zealand, and that because I think some of them have made the fatal error of tying themselves to an already exploited, sort of an already over-mined style of poetry. I mean, too often I take part in readings with other poets who are writing in a style which is incredibly anachronistic. It's incredibly old hat. It's incredibly boring. And it's because they haven't thought it through. They haven't realised that poetry doesn't have to be presented in a way that was acceptable 30 years ago. I don't see my satire as having any sort of didactic function. It's just exists. It's merely one way of. What I'm interested in doing is commenting on marginalisation, the margins of New Zealand society, things which get missed out, and by other writers who don't look at these things. I mean, there are thousands of social realist short story writers around, all patiently churning out endless stories about very conventional situations. What I've tried to do with my stuff is move away from that and look at some other ways of talking about New Zealand. And people think, well, poetry's supposed to be honest, it's supposed to be about feelings, it's supposed to have these romantic values. Whereas for me, poetry is really about undermining expectations.
This call comes to you from a streetcar named Desire. Hollywood Boulevard has been bombed and set on fire. The travel agency says everybody must get tanned. And would you like to try the pudding that escaped to Liquor Land? 1,000 blends of fruit juice are happily identified as a small urban gorilla shouts he's a sinner justified by his laminated bank card and a polyester suit. He bungs you a trick cigar, you bung him the loot. He wants everything that creature comforts include. He's got the auto, eject, multi-function, supermarket blues. Bahuta, kawa, flowers float upon the glittering sea as a dog strains at the sandfly of inevitability. World famous in 60 seconds for doing your duty to sex and sprung in an obvious daylight robbery shopping complex. Fishnet stockings, an old string vest, 42 pairs of shades and a solid gold cornflakes packet of rubber razor blades. A real pork sausage man's deodorant comes in dozens. You got the battle of the food processors, invasion of the microwave ovens. You got the working class struggle of the waffle sold running shoes.